You should be familiar with the basic techniques for free climbing, belted climbing, and maneuvering around a pole. At this point in the program, we'll review these basic techniques by applying them to jobs that new climbers are typically called upon to do. One task that is typically assigned to new climbers is dressing poles on new construction. Not only does this activity allow the new climber to perfect his climbing ability, but it teaches him to. Bo's getting ready to demonstrate how to correctly and safely install a crossarm. One of the first things he needs to do is get his equipment ready. With his tools in place, the last item he needs to attach is his hardware bag. It clips onto the belt and will hold nuts, bolts, and other items he'll need for installing the crossarm. Bo climbs above the work area. Once in position, he safeties off using the proper technique by passing the safety around the pole. Before he uses his belt for support, he looks to make sure the safety snap is properly fastened to his D-ring. He also adjusts his safety strap so that he's in a comfortable position for working on the pole. Bo hangs his hand lines so that Jeff can supply him with additional tools and equipment from the ground. The hand line consists of a one-sheave block and a length of rope. It's attached to the pole by using a rope sling. When he is certain that the hand line is safely in place, notice that without hesitation or readjusting his position, he moves down the pole to the work area. The use of the belted descent technique allows him to maneuver on the pole very efficiently. Bo signals to Jeff to send up a gas-powered drill that he will use to drill a hole for the bolt that will hold the crossarm in place. When he receives the drill, he confidently readjusts his position so that he can drill into the pole easily. With the hole drilled, he's ready to install the bolt. He sends the gas-powered drill down. Bo positions the bolt so that the threaded end is facing him. He sights through the hole he just drilled to make it easier to install the bolt. Note that Bo uses a simple technique to save himself problems later on. After he puts the bolt in place, he secures it there by resting his safety strap on the bolt. This will prevent the bolt from slipping back as he installs the crossarm. Jeff then sends the crossarm. Bo receives the crossarm and guides it across his safety strap. The man on the ground does all the lifting. One thing that you need to be aware of when placing a crossarm across your safety strap is that the weight of the arm may cause the safety strap to shift slightly. As long as you don't panic, there's nothing to worry about. When the crossarm is secured in place, Bo maneuvers around the pole and leans out to untie the crossarm from the hand line. When all is ready, he moves down the pole slightly to make it easier to remove the nuts on the bolts that will hold the crossarm braces. He then removes both nuts so that when braces are sent up, all he has to do is hang them in place and put the nuts back on. If necessary, he repositions himself on the pole to make the rest of the job easier. Notice that he doesn't allow himself to get both hands full. Also, note the piece of hardware on the crossarm because there's always the possibility of it falling and causing an injury. Bo is now ready to secure the braces to the pole with a lag bolt. To do this, he'll have to start the bolt and drive into the pole using his hammer. Watch how he gets the maximum amount of force to drive the lag bolt into the pole by positioning himself out to the side so that he can take a complete swing. Obviously, Bo has a great deal of experience, and he's hung many a crossarm and knows some tricks and shortcuts to make the job easier. He also knows that his equipment is in shape and can be relied on. This mental attitude is something that Jeff is just beginning to develop, and pretty soon he'll be ready to go out and climb on his own. But before he does, there are still a number of things that he will need to learn. For example, he needs to know how to inspect a pole and make sure it's safe to climb. There are a number of checks that an experienced lineman will make before climbing a pole. These will be covered in greater detail in other programs. Your instructor can explain these to you in more detail. Another thing that Jeff is going to need to learn about is what goes into planning a climb from the ground. Bo has to install an insulator on this crossarm. Before climbing, he walks around the pole and plans his climb. As a general rule, if a pole is bent, twisted, or at an angle, it should be climbed from the high side. He checks to see if this is possible. He determines that it is. While climbing, he constantly looks ahead to make certain there are no hazards or obstructions in his way. Obstructions could include ground wire or nails from signs. He's especially careful when maneuvering around the hardware that's already on the pole. As a general rule, you should never hold on to or step on hardware on the pole. The reason for this are many and varied. One is that depending on the age and condition of the hardware, it may not support your weight. Also, if there are lights on the pole, there may be a potential for an electrical shock hazard. When the insulator is installed, he unsnaps his safety and begins his descent. This time, he looks below him to avoid obstacles and hazards that might be in his path. Before any apprentice attempts this type of climbing, they'll put in long hours in the practice yard. But once they have the techniques down and have developed a climbing attitude, they'll be able to handle difficult jobs safely and efficiently. In this program, we've shown you the basic techniques for free climbing, belted climbing, maneuvering on a pole, and some of the difficult problems you may encounter and how to overcome them. We've also shown you how to inspect and adjust your equipment to make sure it's safe, and as an aid to developing the proper mental attitude for climbing. Take some time now to finish reading your text and answer the final set of questions. Ask your instructor to help you if you're having any problems.